Hey everybody, welcome back to another race review. And judging by the car in front of me, we're talking about Kansas. No, we're not. We're talking about Las Vegas. But we're talking about the same winner, Kyle Larson, punching his ticket into the final round. He will race for a championship at Phoenix. So Kyle Larson has punched his ticket into the final round. He will not have to race at, well, I mean, he'll race, but he doesn't have to do anything at Homestead or Martinsville. He is locked in. So Kyle Larson gets the win. He moves on into the final round and had a great race, won all three stages, flat out dominant performance. And that's the Kyle Larson we've seen a lot of this year. And this time he was able to close it out. There's a lot of races this year that are left with check boxes that aren't checked. And he should have had wins. And a lot of them got inherited by William Byron. Weird. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about it because it was honestly a decent but not crazy race. It had like a lot of so-so, and I don't want to say mediocre, but just it was a middle of the road. Like, the best way to put it is perfectly mid. It's a perfectly mid race. It wasn't great, wasn't crazy, wasn't bad, was just sort of a good Sunday race. It's a NASCAR race, and that's okay. They can't all be bangers, and anyone that expects them to all be bangers is, I'm sorry to say it, stupid. Because if they're all that way, then like they say in The Incredibles, if all of them are special, none of them are. So, yeah, Kyle Larson gets it done. Let's go ahead and talk about it, though. Wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't for the stage one. A little bit of a weird strategy call at the end of the stage. Really shook things up. But Kyle Larson won stage one. Christopher Bell got second. Brad Keselowski, non-playoff at this point, got third. Reddick fourth. Truex Jr. fifth. Hamlin sixth. Kyle Busch, again, non-playoff, seventh. Kevin Harvick, non-playoff, eighth. Byron, ninth. And Bubba, non-playoff, in 10th. We go into stage two. Larson would also win stage two over Ross Chastain. Bell third, Hamlin fourth, Keselowski fifth, Byron sixth, Kyle Busch seventh, Reddick eighth, Wallace ninth, and Logano 10th. So both stages, Bubba Wallace was snagging stage points, and honestly, he had a pretty solid day. He did not get the top 10 that I think he deserved, but was able to just hang around where he should have, and man, it just shows if he had been able to sneak into the next round, he might have been able to make some noise. But anyway, yes, Kyle Larson goes on, he wins the race, gets out first on the final sequence of pit stops, runs off a little bit, but Christopher Bell does chase him down, and coming to the line, he washes up in front of Christopher Bell and blocks his way to the line. Christopher Bell probably had the opportunity, if he wanted to try and duck low and spin him, and frankly, I'm glad that's not what happened, because I think that's an ugly way for a race to end, is with someone just dumping the guy in front. So I'm glad the way the race ended on that end. I do not like the idea of simply wrecking your opponent for the championship or the win or anything. I don't think it's right to just essentially, let's be honest, cheap shot your way to a win. Because if you're going to just blatantly take out the guy in front of you, that's called cheap shotting. That's cheap shotting your way to wins. And yeah, we shouldn't encourage that, and we shouldn't be accepting of that. But anyway, so Kyle Larson snags the win. Great day for him. Also a good day. William Byron ends up 6th, but scores stage points. Got 6th, 9th, and 6th. Got some stage points. That's what he needed to stay in contention. Denny Hamlin also scored a decent amount of stage points, so he's in pretty good shape moving into that next race here in the playoffs. As they sit right now, Martin Truex Jr. is 3 above the cut line, so that big cushion he had coming into the race is already almost gone. Larson is locked in. William Byron is 11 to the good, Hamlin 4 to the good, Truex 3 to the good, Bell 3 to the bad, and then 15 back to Reddick, 23 back to Buescher, and 56 back to Blaney. Blaney was DQ'd at the end of this race. Shocks were not the right length or something like that. So Ryan Blaney he's already must win. He must win one of these next 2 races because of that infraction. So definitely a huge penalty there. Also talking about penalties, A.J. Allmendinger and Chase Elliott both received penalties for jumping restarts or laying back on restarts. They served their penalties. A.J. had time to come back. Chase happened with like 30 laps to go. That was the end of his race. Granted, let's be honest, that car was garbage all day, which is another thing I'll talk about later in the video. But yes, those are the penalties and infractions that we saw thus far throughout the weekend. So yeah, moving into that next round, Byron still looks good, Hamlin looks good, Truex looks good, but Tyler Reddick 15 down heading into Homestead. Can't count him out there. Buescher, I hate to say he's must win, but 23 points against that competition up at the top is going to be tough. I think Buescher, even though it's only 23 points, I know what everyone's thinking. 23 is not that hard. you have to understand these front 4 guys are all going to be running not just top 10, top 5 in these next 2 races. So making up 20 points, you're going to have to beat them by an average of 5 points per stage almost. And that's going to be tough because they don't even finish worse than 5th. So Buescher could go out, win both stages, and get second, and maybe snag his way through. But chances are Buescher is already must-win. Ryan Blaney is already definitely in a must-win. And Reddick is close enough that with 2 good stages next week and a second place, he would be right in contention heading into Martinsville. But, like I said, these are going to be guys that are hard to make up points on. So moving on to the next step, we're talking about the Owners' Playoffs real quick because the 9 car is still available in that series, but he had such a terrible round, even with the DQ of Ryan Blaney. Or maybe this was before that. Yeah, they haven't updated that one yet. So he will be ahead of Ryan Blaney, I believe. Maybe not. Honestly, he scored no points today. It was a very bad day. We'll talk about it here in just a second. But the 9 and the 12 are in must-win, and the 20 is in the playoffs on that one. So the 20 car is in, the 19 is not. So we'll see what that cut line looks like. But obviously, like I said, great day for Kyle Larson. But let me talk about that 9 car for a second because I am a Chase Elliott fan. We're going to be a little bit of a homer on this channel real quick. I'm here to say it is time for Alan Gustafson and Chase Elliott to part ways. It is time. It is time. And I say that from a standpoint of, yes, they won a championship together. However, I do not think they achieved the maximum that they could have that year. I think there's a lot of examples of races that they could have, should have won on speed and misjudged it on strategy. The Coke 600 is a perfect example. Elliott had his miscues too. Don't get me wrong. He had miscues in that season. But at the end of the day, if you take out road courses from Chase Elliott's resume, I mean, the guy would have like 11 or 12 wins. Okay? Chase Elliott is a very good race car driver. 11 or 12 wins outside of road courses is not good enough. He is a better driver than that. And the reason I also point this out, Corey LaJoie got in that car and ran 30th. Josh Berry got in that car and run in the mid-20s. Chase Elliott's the only one that can seem to wheel that 9 car to decent finishes. Now, Josh Berry did get a great finish at Richmond with some pit strategy, but on speed, he was I think, 18th place car that day. The 9 car is one of, if not the slowest Hendrick cars on a weekly basis. The Byron and Larson are a whole other world ahead of Bowman and Elliott. And Bowman, I mean, he's got the back injury, and it seems like he's getting better. Like today, Bowman looked great. And yes, Chase was in a backup car. I understand that. But here's the thing. We've seen Byron in backup cars. We've seen Larson in backup cars. We've seen Bowman in backup cars. None of them, I repeat, none of them ran in the 30s for the first 2 stages. Why are you unloading a car that is 30th place on speed? I'm sorry. That is not acceptable. This is Hendrick Motorsports. You are running for championships. That 9 car is still alive for the title. And you unload that backup car from a flat tire, by the way, not a driver mistake, a flat tire, and you were running 30th. When I say 30th, I'm not saying he had bad luck and got stuck in 30th or something like that. He was a legit 30th place car. He was in 27th and got passed by Chase Briscoe, was it Todd Gilliland, and I want to say Ryan Preece were all back there. He was a legit 30th place car on speed. And by the end of the race, they had gotten the car good enough to run about 15th. And that's when he got penalized. But at the end of the day, you went through a whole race and got the thing up to 15th place speed, which is a trend. Chase Elliott unloads slow, and they make the car faster throughout the weekend. That's a sign of some good adjustments. However, you cannot unload with 30th place speed on a weekly basis. Now, yes, his primary had much better speed in it. I understand that. But what I'm trying to point out is no other Hendrick car goes to a backup car and their entire weekend is shot. They have no speed. They're just slow. He lost a lap in the first stage on pure speed alone. He just had no speed. So, like I said, it's time. The speed is not there. The strategy is definitely not there. This year, there are at least 3 or 4 different races that, and I hate to say it because, yes, there are some strategy calls that, could go either way. But Sonoma was a perfect example of just not following through on your strategy call. They ran long, okay? Sonoma was a perfect example of run long and see what happens. And they short-pitted their long run. So they were going to stay out and go an extra 20 laps from what everyone else did. And by doing that, going 20 extra laps and pitting. If a caution came out, you would have fresh tires and you would basically cycle to the front. And they did that. The problem was because they pitted 8 laps earlier than they should have, they had about 8 laps on their tires, 8 or 9 laps instead of 2 or 3 laps. That was the difference in him being able to hold the lead up front where he was or go to the back. Or not go to the back. He fell to like 8th because he was the only car on old tires. But the point is, that is an example of bailing on your strategy too early. You bailed too early and you didn't follow your strategy through. Because at the end of the day, based on when he pitted, he was going to get stuck in the back regardless. It didn't matter when he pitted. You have to, if you're going to go for wins, you have to go for wins. Michael McDowell's a perfect example at Atlanta. Go for the win. He was not going to make it on fuel, but that thing rained out and he stole a top 10 finish. Stole it. He had no business being there, but he stole it because they stuck with it and said, I'm going down swinging. And that is something that has not happened in the 9 crew. Ever. I mean, ever. They don't go down swinging. They bail out on their strategies early. Like, we're going to run long. 5 laps after everyone in pits. Oh, we need to pit now. We can't run long. It's like, you've already eaten the loss. You're already lost your track position by not being with everyone else. Now you may as well go for it. Stay out to the very edge of your fuel window, and if you catch a caution, guess what? You pit from the lead. But instead of gambling when you need to gamble because you don't have the speed, you just follow your trend. You follow the leader. If you're desperate to win a race, you have to take chances when you don't have the speed, and he doesn't take chances. So like I said, the pit strategy is a big, big problem. Always has been, by the way. This goes all the way back to Kyle Busch days, Jeff Gordon days. Those guys weren't winning races that they should have on speed, and then they weren't winning races they shouldn't have. Meaning you made a good pit call and won a race you probably shouldn't have won because you made a good pit call. I mean, the last race I can think of that Chase won that he shouldn't have because he used a good pit strategy was 2018 Dover, his second career win. Every other win, he's had one of, if not the best cars. He's passed people for the lead. He's led the laps, all that stuff. That was the only race where he led no laps, stayed out under late caution, and stole a win. That's the only example I can think of where he stole a win on pit strategy. And like I said, it didn't happen in the Gordon days, didn't happen in the Martin days. You know, even in the Martin days, everyone else ran out of gas. That's why he won with Martin. So I'm just here to say, I think the time has come to make that switch. I still think Alan Gustafson makes cars go fast. He can make a race car go fast over the course of a whole day. The problem is you can't unload with 20th place speed because you're not going to be first place speed by the end of the day. Your teammates are unloading with 5th place speed and ending with race winning speed. You're getting up to top 5 speed by the end of the day. That's not going to win you a lot of races. And like I said, this is one of the better drivers in the Cup Series. I know people want to say, oh, he's washed. He won a championship. It was a Mickey championship. Whatever. Look, at the end of the day, we knew it when he came in as a rookie and had immediate speed. This guy can drive a race car. He is equivalent to Kyle Larson. Maybe not as talented as Kyle Larson. I'm not going that far, but I am saying he has very good driving skill. We know he can run with Kyle Larson. He did it for how many years? And I think at this point there's a clear difference in the crew and the setups and the start of these weekends, and the 5 car just starts out faster. And, you know, outside of execution, the 5 could have a ton of wins, and the 9 has had almost no races this year with race winning speed. And I don't count road courses because that's a whole nother ballgame. So I think the time has come to make the change, not next week or nothing. I'm saying, but in the offseason, it's time to make a change and go out and find someone who has a different mentality. They have to unload with more speed. Look at Rudy Fugle. William Byron was a 16th place competitor, very mediocre. With 2 years, I guess this is his third year with Rudy Fugle, and they are clicking. They've got wins, coming from everywhere that they frankly haven't earned. I shouldn't say haven't earned. They have had wins that they have taken full advantage of strategy to steal wins. And that's what you got to have if you want to make it into the playoffs with playoff points and those types of things. So let me know what your thoughts are. I think it's time to make that change. But let's see what the other Elliott fans or other fans think as well. Because like I said, I don't think he's a bad crew chief. I've seen what bad crew chiefs looks like. For the record, Keith Rodden, crew chief of the number 3. I don't want to say I hate saying people are bad at their job, but compared to everyone else, he is not good at his job. He was not good with Casey Kane. He was not good with Jamie McMurray, and he's not been good for Austin Dillon this year. Let's be honest. Where has Austin Dillon been all year? My goodness. So there are some guys like that are bad. Alan Gustafson's not in that tier. He's just not in the great tier, and you need great to go out and win championships. He could stick with Alan Gustafson and make the chase for the next 10 years with no injuries. He'll make the chase. He'll win 2 to 3 races a year at, ballpark. But if you want to go out and win multiple championships, you need that guy, and that's not the guy you have. So I think that change needs to be made. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But Kyle Larson moves on to Phoenix. We'll have 2 more races till that Phoenix race, and I think I will stream all 3 races at the championship round. So I think everything should be clean and schedule-wise for me that weekend. So we should be streaming that weekend. So anyway, guys, that'll wrap up the race review. Let me know your thoughts on the race in the comments below, and stay tuned for the very next Diecast review.